Hey guys, if you've been dreaming about building your own retro BMX bike, but you're unsure about choosing the right parts, then you're in the right place. Bike components come in different sizes and styles that depend upon the design and the era of your frame set, and it can be a little bit confusing at times. So in this video, we'll be going through the part selection process step by step to help ensure that you pick the perfect parts for your dream build. Back in 2017, I came across the newly released 26-inch Skyway TA retro BMX bikes, and I seriously wanted one, but I was hesitant because they were only available as frame sets, and I felt overwhelmed about picking the right parts, so I decided to go with a complete bike from a different brand instead. Looking back, I think a straightforward guide on modern retro-style BMX builds would have been a game changer for me, and that's exactly why I'm making this video. To help with this process, I created a spreadsheet specifically for planning BMX builds, and it's designed to have a row for each component and to track your overall budget, and this will help ensure that you have a smooth build process without any forgotten parts or unexpected costs. If you're not quite ready to go all in on a custom build, I still think you might find this guide useful even if you're just wanting to upgrade a few parts here and there on your current bike. So once you know what parts are compatible with your frame set, a lot of the decisions become subjective to your budget and what your style preferences are. I'll throw some ideas out there, but I encourage you to share your thoughts and questions in the comments. Let's make this journey a collaborative experience for all of us. Okay, so let's dive into the spreadsheet that I've got set up over in Google Docs. There's a link to a fresh copy in the description below, so feel free to grab it for your own projects. The template breaks the build down into around 30 components and accessories across categories like the frame and fork, steering, wheel related, braking, the drivetrain, seating area, any accessories you might want to add, and then depending on your specific build, you might want to add or remove rows for other parts, but it's a solid base for most retro BMX builds. And then we have formulas at the bottom of the page to tally up the prices so you can see how much adding or removing components will affect the overall cost. And I find this especially helpful when wanting to play what-if scenarios. If I get the cheaper wheels, then how much more can I spend on the upgraded stem, and so on. For this example build, let's go with the 26-inch Skyway TA cruiser frame set that I wanted back in 2017. They're sold out right now, but Planet BMX usually gets a batch or two in every year or so, and I assume another batch will be coming soon in 2024. And for the first time ever, they have a new 29-inch on the way too. And oh yeah, one handy feature of the spreadsheet is the ability to create different scenarios. You might have one tab set up for a more budget conscious build, and then another one set up where it's kind of a sky's the limit, your dream build. And this flexibility lets you kind of compare the options side by side to help manage your budget effectively. Choosing the right frame for your retro BMX build boils down to personal preferences in terms of size, the style, are you going for racing or freestyle, and then your brand affinity. Currently, there are a bunch of cool options on the market. You can still find Haro's Lineage 20-inch frames, including the Groundmaster and the 40th anniversary Bob Haro Freestyler. And then Racing currently has some great deals going. And then with Skyway, Planet BMX usually has the TA frame sets in 20, 24, and 26-inch sizes. And this year in 2024, they've got a new 29-inch size coming, so I know a lot of guys are excited about that. And they also have a version of the Street Beat in 20 inches, and this was already released in Australia, and I think it's on its way to UK shops now, but Planet BMX is still working with Skyway to finalize the design for the US version. And Supercross recently released their classic SX250 with various sizes, including a 24-inch and 26-inch frames. And I just saw on Instagram recently that Torker Racing is working on a new 26-inch retro bike too. And then for anyone looking beyond retro styles, one of my favorites is S&M. They've got a 26-inch ATF frame set, and that would be an awesome choice for a modern cruiser bike. Oh yeah, we can't forget about Gary and Craig over at Gary Turner Bicycles. Some of the best stuff out there, especially in the larger cruiser sizes. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of other bike makers, but we definitely can't forget Gary and Craig. When choosing your frame, remember to check the specs for the bottom bracket type. Most modern bikes use either a mid-size or a Euro bottom bracket, and then also most modern frames come with integrated headsets for 1 1/8 inch threadless forks, unlike the older 1-inch threaded styles that we remember back as kids. And then additionally, take note of the inner diameter of the seat post tube, because this will determine the size of the seat post that you're going to need. So yeah, for our example, we're adding the Skyway 26-inch TA frame set. We'll go with chrome. We're noting the size of the headset, the Euro bottom bracket, and the size of the post and the clamp. These are not available from Planet BMX right now. Hopefully they will be here in a couple of months. So we're taking these specs from a sugarcane post from a couple of years back. These are the specs of the current frame and fork set. Depending on where you're purchasing your bike from, the vendors usually have all those spec'd out on their website and you can copy them from there. But so yeah, we've got our frame set added to the first line. Okay, with the frame out of the way, let's start with the steering column. This includes the handlebars, the stem, the headset, grips, and then any accessories we might want. Let's break down each part starting with the handlebars. In some cases, like the Skyway TAs and the Haros, they released handlebars designed specifically to match those sets. Others leave you to figure it out on your own. And there's tons of options out there, and it'll come down to your preference in style, height, brand, etc. It's all pretty straightforward. But let's start with these Skyway bars here. They come in a cruiser size and a pro size. The pro size is a little bit taller, and I feel like the pro size you have you upright a little bit more and it's more comfortable. So that's what we will add here for $74.99. So yeah, sometime in the 90s, the industry changed over from 1-inch threaded forks with quill stems to 1 1/8 inch threadless ones. And so on your modern bike, you'll likely need a threadless stem. And there are top load ones and front load ones, and some have a longer or shorter reach. And again, a lot of personal preferences here that we won't go into for the sake of time. You can go with those from classic brands like Haro, GT, and the like, but brands like Billet BMX, Knight Bike Company, and Bullseye have some super premium ones. For this hypothetical build, we'll go with the Haro baseline stem here, this red one coming in at $26.99. It's a great budget value option. And so speaking of budget and value, let's go ahead and duplicate this spreadsheet for our dream build. So you can do that by clicking the down arrow and selecting duplicate, and then just double click on the title and we'll change it to dream build. And then we'll go back to our budget and we'll double click and change it to budget build. And so yeah, we're gonna add that Haro baseline stem in at 27 bucks. And then yeah, for the dream build, we're gonna go with this Billet BMX skull top loading stem. These things are beautiful, it's really awesome, and so we'll go with that. I have that ready for me to copy and paste so we don't have to type it in one by one. But here we go, the skull top load Billet BMX stem at 180, bringing our total down there to 854.
If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
So yeah, moving further down, let's focus on the headset. It's pretty much at the core of the steering setup. Assuming that you're working with a 1 1/8 inch threadless steering tube with an integrated setup, the headset pretty much is just going to come with a couple of sealed bearings, a cap, and then some spacers for the stem. And if you're going with something like a Race Inc, you'll still be working with a 1 1/8 inch headset, but it's not integrated, so you'll need a headset that comes with the press-in cups to house the bearings. But yeah, the Skyway, it comes with an integrated headset. For the budget build, let's go with this Odyssey one for $29.99, so we can paste that into the spreadsheet. And then over here on the dream build, let's go with this high-end one from Bullseye, coming in at $139. Let me copy that from another spot so we don't have to type that in. So yeah, we're coming in at $993 and a $731. Okay, for the final touches in this area, we've got grips and accessories. Most modern bikes come with flangeless grips, but for the classic retro vibes, you probably want to pick up some retro versions from a brand like Amy. Maybe the cheaper tri-grips here coming in at $11.99 for the budget build, and then maybe these more premium multicolor Unitron ones for the dream build coming in at $29.99. And then if you went with old school grips, then let's not overlook the donuts. I feel like you can't have a retro bike without them. Let's get these Skyway branded ones from Flight at $9.99 a pair for both builds, so we'll drop those in real quick. A couple more things to consider would be caps for your bar ends. They kind of add more of a modern touch. And then if you're building up a classic racing style bike, you might want to consider a number plate too. If you want those in your spreadsheet, just right click on the row where you'd like to add them above and click insert one row above, and then fill out the values across, including the prices. And the cool thing is that the formula will automatically expand to include those new rows. Next, let's move into the wheel related components. This is where we'll discuss everything that keeps your bike rolling, the wheels, the tires, tubes, and those little details like valve caps and pegs. For a retro look with mags, Skyway offers tufts in the 20-inch and 24-inch sizes, but not in the 26-inch. And for spoked wheels, you can choose between custom-built ones or pre-built options like the economical Haro Legends. In our Skyway example, we'll opt for Haro Legends coming in here at $109.99. They are double wall rims, really great value, especially for a budget build. And so let's drop those into the spreadsheet. And then for the dream build, we'll go with some of these really high-end bullseye hubs, and then we'll get these Rhinolite double wall rims, as well as some spoke nipples and spokes, and then we'll add those over here to this sheet. Okay, so we're just gonna paste these in from my other spreadsheet here to save time. One thing to note is that we're getting 2 rims here, so we've got double the price there. And you can highlight the cells that have the prices, and it will automatically sum up those values, showing that we're at 922 bucks, or almost 923 for those, just the wheels here. And remember that you'll probably wanna get those assembled, built, laced up at your local bike shop, or maybe one of the online retailers, so save a few bucks for that as well. Modern BMX tires tend to be a little bit wider than the ones we had back in the day, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. Things to think about would be, do you want an all black tire or something that's colored? Do you want tan or white skin walls or something that's more solid? And then the tread, do you want a knobby style for like more off-road and dirt, or would you rather have something a little bit smoother for street? For the hypothetical budget build, let's go with these 26-inch Kenda craniums. They're 2.1 inches wide with a tan skin wall. They look really nice, and a great value coming in at $16.99, so let's add those to the spreadsheet. And then for the more premium build, I know it's not necessarily Skyway, but I really have always loved these GT LP5 Heritage tires, so we're gonna go with those at $34.99. When it comes to inner tubes, it's straightforward. Just make sure that they're the right size for the tire's overall width as well as its diameter. And so we're gonna go with these kind of cheaper shop brand ones from Planet BMX. For both builds, we don't really need anything super fancy here. And let's not forget the valve caps. For an old school or retro look, something like die-shaped valve caps can add a really fun look. For the budget build, let's go with these red sparkly ones for $5.99 from Pork Chop BMX. And then for our dream build, let's go over here to Mr. Dice Guy's shop over on Macari. He's got these really sick Skyway TA dice set of 2 for 25 bucks. So we will add that to our spreadsheet over here on the dream build. Finally, the pegs. And it's important to remember that old school wheels typically had smaller axles at 3/8 of an inch, and most modern wheels come with 14mm axles. So it's important to pay attention when you're selecting your pegs so you get the right size for your wheel set. Since these Skyways, where the TA was originally more of a racing bike, we're just gonna skip the pegs on these builds.
You got shocks, pegs, lucky.
Let's delete the line from the budget build. To do that, we can just highlight the row, right click on it and say delete row. And then for the dream build, let's consider swapping the pegs for some high-end axle nuts like the D's nuts from Billet BMX. They're $17.99 a pair, and we'll need 2 pairs. So we're just gonna come back and overwrite the pegs row here with those axle nuts for a total of 36 bucks. Moving on, let's break down the braking system, a crucial aspect for safety and performance. We'll cover brake styles, levers, pads, cables, and detanglers. Modern BMX bikes typically feature V-brakes and U-brakes. U-brakes like Odyssey Springfields and the Evo 2.5s are really common on 20-inch models, while larger bikes often use the V-brakes. Front brakes are less common in modern designs, but if needed, you can add U-brakes if your front fork has mounts for them. Otherwise, you can add classic side pull caliper brakes for retro builds. For our Skyway TA build, which was historically a racing bike, we'll just add a single brake in the rear. We'll choose this Tektro V-brake coming in at $16.99 for a budget-friendly option. So we'll add that to the rear here, and then let's go ahead and right-click and delete the one for the front. And then for the dream build, we'll go with this Paul Motolite V-brake for it, coming in at $188.50. And so same deal, we'll paste that in and we will remove the row for the front brake. Choosing levers is straightforward. Diacomp Tech 77s are still really popular choices for old school and retro builds, but they won't work with V-brakes, so we're gonna have to pick levers that are designed for V-brakes on these builds. The budget version will opt for a Tektro at $11.99. And then for the dream build, we'll go with the Paul Love lever that matches the brake that we went with back there. A quick note on brake pads: if you're using mag wheels, make sure that you get matching colored brake pads, otherwise you'll end up with black streaks all over your rims.
I don't want to hear any more about it.
Both of our brake sets come with pads and no need to upgrade, so we'll just delete this row. Moving on to brake cables, this is pretty straightforward. You can get shop branded ones from places like Pork Chop BMX for pretty cheap, or you can get branded ones like those from Diacomp. Let's go with this cheaper red one from Pork Chop for $9.99. And then for the dream build, let's go with this slightly more premium set, this blue set for $14.99. For retro freestyle builds, a gyro is still a popular choice to allow your handlebars to spin freely without your brake cables ending up in a big tangled mess. And Odyssey still makes a version that's similar to what we had back in the day, but they also have a more modern version that comes with sealed bearings. But either way, you'll want to make sure that the head tube on your bike has holes pre-drilled for the gyro tabs to attach to. And if not, it's not that big a deal. You can drill and tap them yourself. I did that on my 26-inch GT Performer a few years back. And again, since this is more of a race style build, we're going to delete the gyro from our list. Next, let's shift our focus over to the drivetrain, which is a key player in your bike's performance. We'll cover the bottom bracket, the cranks, the sprocket, pedals, the freewheel, and the chain. Selecting cranks is kind of a key first step in this area because depending on what cranks you want to go with, you may end up with a different size spindle. Some of them come with a 19mm spindle and others are more common with a 22mm size. And it's important to know that because the opening on your bottom bracket needs to match that of your spindle. So you want to keep that in mind first. And then the other thing to consider is the length of the crank arms themselves. 175 is probably the most common in the bigger bikes, maybe a 180 after that. And then if you're looking at like a smaller flatland freestyle build for a 20-inch bike, then they like to go with 160mm or maybe 165s to give better clearance. For a balance of quality and value, let's go with these Redline flight cranks here, coming in at 140 bucks, so we'll add those. And then for the dream build, let's go with these high-end bullseye cranks here. They're 175mm. Both of these come with the 19mm spindle, but yeah, coming in at 630 bucks. Let's add that to the dream build. The bottom bracket is where the cranks rotate from. For a mid-size bottom bracket, you'll have bearings that press directly into the tubes, sort of like how skateboard bearings are pressed into wheels. And then for the Euro bottom brackets, those ones screw into the tube, and in either case, you'll want to make sure that the bottom bracket is sized correctly for the spindle on your cranks. So the Skyway TA frame requires a Euro bottom bracket, and since the Redline and profile cranks that we've chosen both have 19mm spindles, then we'll select a 19mm Euro bottom bracket for both builds. For the budget build, let's go with this Theory Euro 19mm bottom bracket for 40 bucks. And then for the dream build, let's go with this really nice bullseye one here. Sprockets or chain wheels play a crucial role in your bike's gearing. You can go with something like a full sprocket or a spider with a chain wheel. It really just depends on the style you're going for. One thing to consider is the gearing ratio, and the bikes that we had back in the 80s typically had much larger sprockets up front, typically a 44 tooth with a 16 tooth freewheel in the back. And modern bikes, especially the big ones, are designed for much smaller sprockets up front, more in like the 40 or 33 tooth range. And in a lot of cases, a bigger sprocket that's closer to the 44 tooth one, they won't even fit and they'll end up hitting the chainstay in the back. So if you're looking for a bigger sprocket, definitely do your homework to make sure it's compatible with your frame. For our hypothetical build, let's go with a 33 tooth on both. We'll add a more budget-friendly Redline flight style with this Neptune 33 tooth at $29.99. And then for the dream build, let's go with a spider and a chain ring. So we'll go with this Knight spider here at $44.99. Let's just change this to spider. And then let's add a row for the chain wheel. And for that, we'll go with the matching Knight one over here, coming in at $49.99. All right, next up is the freewheel, and this is what allows your bike to coast without your crank spinning. So yeah, the ratio of the sprocket to the freewheel is the gearing ratio. Some like a much larger sprocket up front for higher top speeds, while others like a much smaller sprocket to make it easier to climb hills or pop wheelies. A traditional 16 tooth is still a popular choice for these 33 tooth chain wheel sizes on the bigger bike BMXs. And I know a lot of guys who ride the 26 and 29 inch cruiser bikes, they really like those really loud freewheels from brands like Originate. And then for the 20 inch on the kind of the freestyle side, a popular option is the Free Coaster, and those are specially designed. It's part of the hub, and they allow you to roll backwards or ride backwards without having to pedal backwards like a traditional freewheel would. So if you're looking for a flatland or a modern freestyle bike with the Free Coaster, make sure you're considering that when you're making your wheel choices. There are cheaper options, but let's go with this popular Originate Hornet for the budget build. And then for the dream build, let's go with this Profile Racing Elite sealed freewheel at $160. BMX chains are generally available in two sizes, a more modern and slimmer 3/32 of an inch size, and then the traditional 1/8 of an inch size. And in either case, just make sure that you match your chain to the specs on your freewheel or your sprocket and you should be good to go. But if you're ever in doubt, a 1/8 inch size chain will work on both sides, sprocket and freewheel. And then for our build, we went with that 1/8 inch Neptune sprocket. So we're gonna wanna go with a 1/8 inch chain here, like this KMC at $13.99. So we're gonna add that to our budget build. And then for the dream build, we're also gonna go with the KMC, but we'll go with the 3/32 inch size on this one, and the half link, it's a little bit more expensive at $35.99. Okay, so we're closing out this category with pedals. They come in two different main sizes, so you want to make sure that you're getting the right ones for your cranks. 3-piece cranks typically use the 9/16 inch pedals, and then the classic old school 1-piece cranks use the 1/2 inch pedals, so just pay attention to make sure you're getting the right size. Modern bikes often come with plastic composite pedals because they're light and cheap, but there's still a ton of really premium options out there from brands like Bullseye and Billet BMX. For our budget build, we're choosing these Odyssey twisted plastic composite pedals coming in at $18.99. And then for our dream build, we're gonna go with these Skyway limited edition ones by Bullseye coming in at $399 a pair. So now we're moving on to the seating area, which includes the seat, the post, and the clamp. And this is a little bit of a mixture between comfort and style, especially for us older guys who can't handle those hard plastic seats like we used to. And classic railed seats with traditional guts are common for cruiser bikes, while modern 20-inch bikes typically have pivotal seats for a firmer connection. For our budget build, we'll use this comfortable GT cheat code seat. This is what I've got on my GT Performer, and it's super comfortable. It's $19.99, so we'll add that to the budget build. And then for the dream build, we'll opt for this really highly regarded and expensive Brooks seat coming in at $144.99. So we'll add that over here to the dream build. So both of these seats will need seat guts, so let's just grab these standard chrome ones at $9.99 each, and we'll use those on both builds. Choosing the right seat post is pretty simple. Just match it to your seat type. A pivotal post for a pivotal seat and a regular post for a railed seat. Just make sure that you get the right diameter for your frame size. I made that mistake a couple of years ago when I was building up an S&M Dagger, and I had the whole bike together. I was ready to attach the seat as the last step, and it wouldn't fit, and it just really sucked because I was excited to ride that day, and then I had to wait a few days for a replacement to arrive. But yeah, for these builds, these Skyway builds, they accept the 25.4 millimeter seat post, and Skyway has this really cool laser etched chrome one, so that's what we're gonna go with on these builds, coming in at $27.99. Seat clamps may seem like a small detail, but getting the right size for your seat post tube is essential for secure and adjustable seating. As noted earlier, we need a 1 1/8 of an inch size for these Skyways. We're gonna go with this Diacomp MX at $18.99 for the budget build. And for the dream build, we're gonna go with this Bullseye Elite twin bore seat clamp, which is extravagant at $109.99. Finally, you might want to consider a classic pad set for your frame, especially if you're going for that classic retro look. For the budget build, let's go with this red Skyway pad set coming in here at $44.99. And for the dream build, we're gonna go with that same Skyway pad set, but we're gonna keep it in the blue theme here, also at $44.99. I set up the spreadsheet to automatically calculate the total cost of the build, and this helps you stay on budget, but it also allows you to experiment around and see what would happen if you do the what if scenarios. Like, what if we got a cheaper wheel set? Would that allow enough funds for us to go ahead and get the more expensive pedals? And then you could add some notes or columns to kind of track where coupon codes or free shipping offers are, and maybe help you batch up the items into a few orders to kind of just save on your overall cost. Okay, so I'm kind of stoked on how this budget build turned out, and I might have to make this one come to life. There might be a couple of parts that I would switch out for a little bit nicer here or there, but the dream build here at the complete high end, that would have to remain a dream for me. That's just something that's not in my budget, but it was fun to do the hypothetical what if, and gives you at least some ideas on what a high end versus a more value conscious bike would look like. And on the budget build, we probably could have gone a little bit cheaper and saved some money, but at that point you start to get back into the price of complete bikes with full of OEM parts, and it kind of of defeats the purpose of like a really cool custom bike. But maybe going a little bit cheaper over here would be a good approach if you want that custom bike, but you can't really afford all the parts you want just yet. At least you could get it put together and then swap out parts over time. So yeah, I'm really stoked with how this turned out. Now remember that BMX building is a passion, but it can be a pricey hobby. And to support more content like this, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, or maybe subscribing or leaving a thought in the comments section. Every bit of interaction helps grow our community and helps keep the channel thriving. So that's it for this BMX part selection guide. I hope this has been a valuable part of your BMX journey. I'm currently waiting on my Hutch Western H Freestyle stem to build up my Hutch Trickstar. In the meantime, I'd love to hear about your projects. Drop your stories, your challenges, or your love for BMX in the comments. Like I said earlier, our community really thrives on sharing and support. And so thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.